Hi, hello, good morning, hello, bonjour from whatever part of the world you are watching this from. I believe that you're seeing this video is a testament that God wants you to actually see it. And if there's one thing that I have learned in my work with God, I know I'm not old enough to have learned so much, but if there's one thing that I have learned in my work with God is the fact that God is a very intentional God, and for every season, for every time in your life, He will bring counsel to you, He will bring words to you that are specific for that season. And so today I feel it's time, really. I've been wanting to share this story for so long, but I just, one thing or the other always stopped me. I felt I was not professional enough. I felt I was not ready, but I think it's time to actually share my story. So this is how God chose my PPA for me. I know you are wondering, what is a PPA? Why is it a big deal? So if you're a Nigerian youth, PPA is that season or that time that makes or destroys your life. Basically, it just kind of sets it's an opening for you coming into the real world to work and all of that. So PPA is the placement you get when you are serving the country, your service here as a Nigerian youth corps. So I remember, I think a few months, like 8 months to my... Okay, so I'm going to continue. So I think months, that was sometime in August last year when I was doing School of Ministry, because there's a story for that, and I think it's for another day, but let's just cut right from August. So in August, I was doing School of Ministry and I was in Abuja, and a lot has happened in my life, and God was just merciful. And I found myself in School of Ministry. I wanted to do School of Ministry. I didn't have the money, the resources to do it. And in the church where I was at that time, my family, Petra, shout out to Petra. Nobody knew me in church. I was really new, but somebody somehow paid my transport, my welfare, everything was supernatural. That's really a gist for another day. But then let's go through to School of Ministry. I remember standing in the heart of Abuja, and I was looking at Central Bank, because I've always been that person who dreams very big. So I studied let me just give you a background. I studied nutrition and dietetics, human nutrition and dietetics, from the Federal University of Calabar, Cross River State. So by profession or certification, I'm supposed to work in a hospital setting or a hotel setting as a nutritionist or as a dietitian. But somehow I wanted to work in CBN, because prior to that time, I've had stories of people who worked in CBN and they had the opportunity to network and even get paid big amount of money. So somehow I just wanted to live fine. I wanted to work in CBN. I would stand on that platform in a free hotel every day, and I would look at CBN, the building, and I would just pray and prophesy words. And I was praying, I'm like, CBN, I conquer you. So after praying so much to get into CBN, I think 5 months later, Nysc was getting close. My school had mobilized me. We've seen the list. We're like, okay, the next batch, we're going for Nysc. So I had this list of, and I was like, okay, CBN. I started feeling some uncertainty in my spirit. So I was like, okay, let me just draft out other list of places I wanted to be. So I drafted out ECOWAS. I did my research. The pay was good. I wrote, I think, Selena Holdings. I was reaching out to these people on LinkedIn, because I was actually like, I had an active profile on LinkedIn professionally. So I was reaching out to people working in these places. I was following their pages and all of that. Then fast forward to January this year, So I was supposed to go to camp last year December, but somehow they were like, oh, there were people on ground that had not gone for the service here, so that was for them that they should go, and that was C1, and then I was to go for C2. And the frustration, I don't want to tell you, you know that frustration when you're waiting for a phase in your life so that you are just done with it and move on. So I was basically, but God helped me. I That's another story because it's actually a very long one. I got this international gig I was doing, so it was bringing in some money, and so I was not really hastening to go to the service here anymore. So in January, my pastor at that time taught a message that said that God is interested in every area of your life. From what you wear, it might sound a bit off or weird, but God is intentional about every single thing or phase in your life, and that if only you ask for certain things, that you will. Okay, so after that message, I really felt like the need to ask God. If you notice from the story, I've always been like, I wanted to go to CBN. I wanted to places I felt were good. So it has always been me. And I'm like, God, I didn't make myself. You made me. You said in your word that before I was born that you had plans for me. And you said these plans are for good and not of evil. So I acknowledged that I was in the wrong. And then I prayed. I remember standing in the middle of my room. It was like every other prayer, Lord, give us our daily bread. It was like that kind of prayer. And I prayed in tongue. I was not sweating or breaking out, but I know I prayed fiercely. And I was like, God, where do you want me to serve? What city? I know I want to serve in Abuja. I know Abuja is the hot cake. Where do you want me to serve? It was not an easy prayer because I'd already made up my mind to serve in Abuja. And I was praying, I was with one eye open, one eye closed. I'm like, what if God say you go to Kogi State? What if God say you go to one state? So it was praying that prayer of submission as in faith. That prayer alone was a prayer of faith because I'm like, what if God says something I don't want? So I prayed and I prayed and I prayed, and we were taught that when you pray, you are expectant to hear. So I had my notepad on the bed, very close to where I was praying, my Bible, my pen, and I remember hearing the name. It was specific, and for the purpose of it's an organization that is very confidential. Is one of the arms of the Nigerian military, so they're actually very confidential. So after hearing the name, I wasn't sure if there was anything like that, so I wrote it down. If I brought my notepad right now, I think my notepad is here, but it was going to take time for me to open it, so maybe so I had the name and I wrote it down, and later on I decided to go and Google it. Google is our friend. So I went on Google and I had like three names, it's a sentence, like 3 words. So I put it in and I realized that there was actually something like that. So I was like, okay, and it was in Abuja, in the city of Abuja, and I was like, okay, but then I felt discouraged because, see, one thing about, if you want to really know, no, it's not really a rule or a principle, but most times God will give you something that you, in your human capacity, you're not qualified for, you don't think you can do. So when I saw it, I'm like, God, do you know the course I studied? How are you giving me? These people don't have anything related to what I did. So why are you calling this specific name for me? Because it was a business company with several subsidiaries. So I'm like, I did nutrition, how would they accept me? Is this really you? But then I think I comforted myself by saying that if it was really God, that I was going to get into that place no matter what. So I constantly prayed, I constantly called in the name of that place, like the week on, week in, week on, week in. There's one part of this story that I did not add. Like, I think 8 months ago, whenever I said I wanted to serve in Abuja, I usually tell my pastors or my friends, and Okay, so I think I was trying to tell you how prior to even NYC getting very close, my pastors, my friends, my spiritual friends, covenant friends, they've always declared that, oh, you're going to serve in Abuja as a point of prayer. So those are things that are already sealed. So in that prayer, that the day I was praying and I had where I was going to serve, God said, I think He said, no, I know, I heard Him. He said, you're going to serve in Abuja. This is the place. That He called the name. And then He said, you're going to have a lot of juicy benefits. Juicy, that was the word, juicy benefits. And then I wrote all of that down in my notes. And then let me just fast forward. So I was already praying, I was excited. NYC come, yeah, I know I'm serving in Abuja. I'm not scared of being thrown to a state where I don't know anybody. That is good. And I think one of this is me cutting the story now. One of the things that gave me comfort to say that even if God said Kogi I was going to go was a story from a friend. One of my friends, he's a guy. He, when I was struggling and saying if they take me to any other state I will not go, I remember the words that he said. He said, anywhere God wants you to serve, that is where His provision for you is. That He's very intentional about even something that we don't consider big or important, as simple as NYC placement. That during his time he served in the north, but that was where God wanted him to be. And I think He gave me stories of how He favored him, everything he needed. It was an amazing service year, 1 full year of God being in the picture. And so when God said Abuja, I'm like, okay, God, so it's Abuja you want for me? That means this is where my provision is. So where did I even stop? Okay, so NYC came, and then I registered. The struggles of a Nigerian youth. It took days. Network was so bad. It was, people were exhausted. There were people who slept in cafe. If you're watching this video and you probably slept in a cafe, I guess you can relate. But somehow it didn't really stress me. It did stress me, but not very well. So I registered, and then we were waiting for. You usually wait for the states to come out, because when you register, you'll be asked what states in Nigeria have you visited. I didn't want to lie. I didn't want to lie. I'm like, if it is God, it is God. So I imputed I had visited Abuja, and imputed all the states I had visited. And funny enough, I've never really been to like the core northern states. So I just indicated this one. So I've never been to Kaduna, I've never been to Gombe, I've never been to Kano and all of that. So I remember the day that NYSC released the states that we were what's the word, deployed to. I was my friend's house early in the morning. My friends were telling me, oh, in states deployment is out, and I just opened my portal and I saw Gombe State. What? Gombe State? I started crying. It's funny now. I broke down in tears. I cried. I called my aunties in Lagos, my uncles. I'm like, they posted me to Gombe. I told my friend said, this is your NYC, this is your Gombe. It's not Gombe. Okay, so I cried. I questioned God, when I'm like, you said Abuja, you gave me a name. Was I hallucinating? Was it me? Wanting that, see, when I'm sure when God told Abraham, go to a land I will show you, when things were not working and that land was dry, I know Abraham would probably be wondering, was it me? But there was always going to be one thing that will give you a conviction in your spirit. Because I'm like, I know I wanted to serve in Abuja, so that could possibly be me saying I had myself. But the name, the way it came, the name of my PPA, the way it came, it can't be me. I've not seen this name before. I've not researched to say this particular place and how specific and accurate it was. So that was the only thing that gave me conviction that So I called a friend, my choir MD in church. She's a very important spiritual support. And then she told me something, that there's always a reason for everything that God does, that in this time we should trust him, and that as I go to camp, that I should go there and enjoy myself. I should be happy. I should participate. I should not be gloomy and say, oh, this is not where God wants me to be, because my going there could be for a reason. And if you know NYS is like, you are like semi-military. It's just that point where so that's why there's words like deploy. That's why because we even wear uniforms, we wear khaki. Do you get? NYS is like a military kind of. So if you're going to camp, you're going for rigorous training, you're going to a strange land. Gombe was a core northern state. I've not been there before. Like, it was really strange. I didn't know any. Okay, so I'm trying as much as I can to be very detailed in the story, so that it will not be like God is a magic worker. He does not do magic. So he does miracles, and in miracles there's always a part that he will make you do. The Bible says that it is the Spirit of God that work in us both to will and to do. And so I just remembered, as I was crying, I just remembered how a well-meaning uncle, a very influential, wealthy uncle, had reached out to me during the time of my registration, that they should pay because now this is one system where you can find somebody who knows somebody, and then you can pay a particular amount of money, and then they'll put you in any state that you desire. That is your money speaking for you. So I'm like, you know, that hot-headedness when you are learning Christ. I'm like, no, God will give me a place. God puts me there, he will do it. I don't need any human, like I don't need to pay. If anything comes to me, I think there was something that told us, is it about Papa Adeboye or Yedipo or somebody that says that anything that God cannot give me and I have to pay to get it, like pay like illegal to get it, then it's not worth it. So I said no, that I don't want them to pay. He gave me the money, I went to do shopping. So that moment, now imagine that moment you're now crying that you would have just listened, you would have just paid this money by now. You'd be seeing Abuja reflecting on your portal. You were doing Spirit Coco, you were doing I Trust God. You know, thoughts were coming. It was really a very weird moment for me. I was crying. This was like 3 days. I had to be in camp. I was so angry. And after all the comfort from people, I just packed my bag. There was not even the day to go. So I packed my bag, booked a bus, and I was on my way to Gombe State. Now my family were very worried, and I think they were calling me while I was on transit going to Gombe State. Gombe was very close to Maiduguri. If you know Maiduguri insurgency, Boko Haram, it was just, they felt I was not going to be safe. It was really not that state. But funny enough, when we later got there, Gombe was not really like that. The people were very welcome. But let me not call the show. Let me not jump the gun. They called me and they were like, they didn't know I was on my way traveling already. So they were like, don't accept the deployment. Just wait till the next set, like we told you before, then we can pay this time around, and then you get posted to Abuja and you go to camp in Abuja. And I told them they should not worry, that this reality is not the truth. Now this is me going to Gombe. God said I was going to serve in Abuja, and I'm going to camp in Gombe. Right now I'm on my way to camp in Gombe. So that does not contradict what he had said. He said I will serve in Abuja. If I'm going to camp in Gombe right now, does not stop God's word from coming to pass. I didn't really explain it to them like that, but that was what I had in mind. So I got to camp, camp vibes. I've been in a boarding house before, made friends. It was fun. I did march past. I was really, really active. Like, I was marching. Like, I've never marched in my entire life to do a parade, but I found myself doing it in camp with so much joy. And then it happened. I just fell ill. I've not been sick for months. I just fell ill in camp. And the camp coordinator, for some reason, was always emphasizing, if you are not fit to be here, come and go. And so I started noticing, like, I noticed my symptoms were getting worse. I'm like, what's happening? And then the state coordinator always emphasized, if you're not fit to be here, she called categories of people that were really ill, like sickle cell, one had one ailment or something that they could not really cope, because the exercises were rigorous, we were under sun, the weather was very cold. Like I would wear three inners, sweaters, pantyhose, socks. We'll still be freezing. We'll wake up as early as 3 a.m., 4 a.m., standing under the cold. It was really, really intense. So I think that kind of weighed on me. I've never gone through that kind of. But there were other people. I'm like, why are they not sick? It's not like I'm one kind feeble person. So I went to meet her. I'm like, Ma, I don't feel too good, but I want to stay and I can't stay. And I remember she said, oh, you have to go home. I'm like, don't worry. I gave her assurance I'll be fine. The next day, I was on parade again. I think I was trying to do another, it was a competition. We're trying to march, and that was just it. I couldn't breathe. I realized I was not able to breathe. I had to rush to the clinic, and long story, because I almost died. I didn't tell anybody, but those Nysc, those copper doctors, I mean, what's the name to call them? They almost killed me. I was really, really in a very traumatic state, and then they injected me with paracetamol injection. After I had taken paracetamol up to 20 minutes, I don't even know what happened, but I almost died. It was that serious, and eventually I had to go home. And I remember the state coordinator telling me that I have personally written your case to the Director General of Nysc, like the overall in charge of all the states. So she said that I think this was what really made me go home now. It was like a threat. She said, if you stay here, we'll assume that you are fit enough to serve 1 year in the states. I'm like, the weather of this state is, my body is already rejecting the weather. How can I stay here? She was like, then you have to go home. Forget about the fun you want to have. Forget about the friends you want to make. You have to go home. I'll talk to the Director General. They are working your relocation. And that was it. And then I had to come home. But, sometimes when God uses, I will not say God brought that sickness on me, but God uses even the bad things in our life for our good. The Bible says that the part of all things work together for the good of those that love God. So, but then I didn't see that. I was really upset. I'm like, I'm a Christian. Why should I be sick? Why should it be an embarrassing situation, like even up onto death? I mean, why should that happen to me and all of that? Because when I was in camp, I was very fervent. I would do my devotion. I would pray in the hostel. People were Muslims. People were other religions. I didn't really. So imagine me now being the one to be sick out of them. It was really something for me. But I didn't know God was using even that bad situation for my good. So eventually I came back to Abuja to wait for when PPAs were going to come out. And so after I think 2 weeks, because I just spent a week in camp, after 2 weeks PPA came out, and for those of us that did relocation, my relocation was successful. Now when I came back, other of my families had to reach out to people they know. There was an auntie who somebody said, oh, I know, I want to help your niece. So I don't really know which worked, but the point is, men were on the wrong. God actually made it happen. Like, my relocation was successful. So when placements came out for people that were in their original states, I didn't get any placement. So what you have to do is you have to go to the secretariat for the Nysc, and then you have to apply for a PPA. And I remember people telling me, my friends that served before me, they were like, you are in for it though, that once you do a relocation and you are not in your original state that you were deployed to, you will suffer. Like, you find it hard to get a PPA, because the original people, let's say if there were 5,000 coppers that were originally sent to Abuja, they would have given them PP, and even those ones too, some companies will reject them. Then talk more of you that is now coming to find a place for yourself, that it was really going to be hard. And I was like, okay, God, I'm in Abuja now, my relocation at work, you said I was going to serve in Abuja, and I'm here. That word has come to pass. Now for the placement, I have to take a step to go to Nysc. You can go to Nysc, and then they'll give you a letter that you will write and put where you want to serve. So I did put the name that God had told me in prayer, and I put it, and then I was waiting. And they were like, people were like, oh, this place is hard, or you will not get there unless you have connection, or unless you know somebody, and all of that. So I said, okay, well, let me take that step. I will not just lie down and sleep and say God said something and let it just happen. So that was what I told myself. Then I went to the organization, and I wrote a letter because I'm a writer. I drafted this beautiful, wonderful, passionate letter, and I took there, and they directed me to the person in charge, who is a military officer. And for some reason, they were acting very funny. They refused to collect the letter from me. They were like, oh, call the copper in charge to advise her. I'm like, what's happening? She took me to one side. She said, so the copper in charge took me to like the side of the building, and then she was advising me, oh, do you have an uncle in this particular military sector? I said, I don't have a direct uncle. She said, do you have relatives? I said, I was thinking, I was like, I think so, but I mean, I know somebody, he's retired. He was like, do you know somebody in the big offices, the presidency, the senate? I'm like, well, I mean, why are you telling me all of this? She was like, you can't come here by yourself. This is not somewhere that they will accept you by yourself without anybody recommending or referring you. I'm like, oh, really? And let's try. So we went to meet the person in charge, the person that was supposed to accept me. He laughed, he took the letter from me, read it. I'm like, he was like, passion is not enough. Now I'm not portraying anybody as a bad person, but he did said some he said some things that really broke my dreams. As you know, as a young lady trying to dream high, I was small, they'll tell you, aim for the moon and be the sun. If you don't get it, it will land on the stars. So I was just that kind of person, and with that letter, he really broke me to say, oh, this will not fly. I went home that day with tears in my eyes. I came back, I'm like, God, is this why are you not doing anything? You are the one that called the name of this place. I'm not seeing you doing anything in it. I feel like I'm doing all the work. I cried. I was really, really down. And then, as a believer that goes to church, church is that place that refuels you. The word of God is that source, that eternal river that doesn't dry. And I got refueled again. And then I reached out to my uncle that was, a group managing director in a. So I met that my uncle, that I felt his position if he wrote a letter to me. Now, he's not in the military or army or anything, but he wrote a letter for me, a letter of recommendation. He did write two letters. One was to come to his company, that if I give that to the NYC would send me to his company, and then I could do my service here, and he would pay me, and I probably wouldn't stress because after all, he's my uncle. And then the second letter was to that particular organization as him recommending me, because he's also a big person and all of that. So when I got there, I took the letter and I went to the secretary, and they were like, oh, this girl again. It was becoming a thing. Like, it was really, I wouldn't use the word harassed, but they were looking at me with one kind of, oh, this girl, I don't want to give up, oh, she's here again, and all of that. And then I met the person in charge again, and they were like, oh, is your uncle in the force or any of this? I said, no. He now said, oh, he's not going to go through the letter, whoever my uncle is, if he's that big, why don't he come by himself? It was just a whole lot of words that I'm trying so much to filter and not using in the purpose of this video, because the purpose of this video is not to call anybody out, but to tell you that when God actually says something, it will come to pass. And so I got rejected again, and imagine second rejection. I went home, I begged there, and I remember one word, that you don't get what you want in life. In my mind, I was like, it did break me. I would not admit, because I'm human, but something that now I'm reflecting back on, it was not me that wanted it, it was God that wanted it. And if God wanted something, then I was going to get it. Now, if I wanted something, it's possible that I would not get it, but if God wanted something, I was going to. So I got home again. this time around, I was all over the place, all over my friends' DM, telling them how frustrated it is, and I don't want to just get upset and go to another place. It's not like I don't have other options, but because God said, I wanted to hold on to what He had said, and I believe that was where my provision was. And so it was really a lot, put in prayer, advice, hoping, like I'm trying so much to just summarize the whole process, but it really, really weighed on me. It was really a very down time for me. And then eventually NYC, the relocation placement they gave me came out, and it was that place. And so I went back with the later. This time around, I got scared of going. Like I was afraid of going back there because the embarrassment. It was. I wouldn't right now. I wouldn't say the person in charge was a bad person. He just said, apart from trying to crush my dream, whatever, he said his hands were tight. It was not a decision he was going to make alone, and I felt it was a usual thing for people who come there to probably be recommended or have some sort of high connection, or if your course, and I think what even was in the whole thing was the fact that my course was not even related to anything they were doing there. So going back again with the letter from NYC that had NYC have now directly posted me there, I was scared. I was scared. I'm like, another embarrassment, another rejection, because this person had already made the statement that if you come, I'm going to reject you no matter where you work it from. Then I stood up again. I think, okay, let me put in the story. The day that NYC originally gave me that place as my placement, I had exhausted all my money going to this place for several weeks every day, and they were playing me up, rejecting me, all of that. So at that point, I was flat on cash. I didn't have any money for transport. So I remember lying down in the morning on my bed. And so that morning, no, it's not like I just decided I was going to go back there. No, to be honest, I think I made up my mind. I'm like, I'm going there peacefully. Tell them, see, NYC have posted me to your organization. Just reject me. Let me go to my father's house. That was my plan. But I didn't even have transport. So I was lying in my bed, and I said, let me pray. I said, God, let me pray a prayer, because David was a man who would inquire and inquire and inquire. Maybe if you don't change my tickets, let me pray again. Is this where you want me to be? Am I in the right place? Have I done things out of my stubborn head? And I remember hearing a word, the audible voice of God saying, arise and go and call the name of the place again. I'm like, arise and go where? With what? I don't have a car, I don't have money. How am I arising and going to where? And I was like, okay. And I was trying to remember the teachings I've had over the years, that it is in going that God will do the miracles. So I stood up, went to my bathroom, had my bath, started wearing my NYC uniform. I didn't have money, not 5 naira, not 10 naira, not 500. And then I dressed. I was dragging my foot. It's hard to obey sometimes. I was dragging my foot, and maybe in the process of dragging, money will come. I didn't call anybody. I was just saying, God, you said I should go down this provision somewhere. I was being slow, being very intentionally slow, so that maybe I'll receive an alert, money has entered my account. Because if God had said go, obviously there should be provision. Nothing. I did nothing. I finished. Time was really going. I locked my door and I walked out on my street going to the bus stop without money in my account. And then that was when I had the nugget in my spirit to call my mom. Now, since I started working I don't really call them, because they were taking care of other children. So that was how I got to the park. I had the nudging to call my mom. I usually don't call them, like I said, because I'd grown, I'd finished school. They've invested so much in me. They have other children to take care of, so why should I be bothering them? I was working, but at that point I didn't have money. And I called her, and that was how she sent me in the park. There, I had to wait for the money to enter my account, withdraw, and I went there. And I came. The moment I came, the drama started again. Oh, so you used other means to work this to come. I'm like, I didn't work anything. They posted me here. Oh, you were lying. It was back and forth. It was really embarrassing. Oh, we're not going to accept you and all of that. So okay, I think what happened, they were like, so some in the office there, I think they were trying to reject me. I'm trying to remember if that was that same day or another day. So there was a man in the office. There were people in the office that were nice, obviously, a lot of them. So there was this particular man in the office that was just asked, "Where are you from?" He was this father figure. So where are you from? I told him where the state I was from. And then he became all friendly, all chatty. "Oh, my grandmother is from there. I'm your brother. Oh, what's happening?" And that was how I just found favor like that. Because that day I've made up my mind. I'm like, "God, you said this thing. Why am I going through all of this? Do you get? Just I'm done with what you have said and it's not coming to pass." But then favor, and the man became extra nice and was like, "Oh, bring your document. I will put in a word for you. I will make sure that, just tell your daddy that I'm taking care of this." Like, he thought I was living with my parents, so he said, "Oh, take my number, you can give it to your parents, tell them, don't worry, next time you come, they will accept you." And that was how I found favor with somebody I don't know from even. So, long story short, that was how favor. God used a man, God used a stranger, a total stranger. I would have never thought of probably even going to meet somebody to beg, because, like, and favor, I got accepted. There were other people. Now, let's not be like this was a me thing. There were people who came in and they were rejected because maybe they didn't know somebody, or their course was not relevant, or there was no space for them. But I got accepted into that placement to enjoy all the benefits of that placement. And then I was for my office of work, I was posted to one of their subsidiaries to work. So the name that reflects on my document is the name of the organization. Now that's just the story. And then the GC benefit, the pay was good. I mean, compared to other places, I think it was among the top 10 as at that time. The pay was really good, apart from what NYC was giving us. And a month in that organization, they doubled what they were paying us as coppers. They doubled it literally. And where I got to, my spiritual life is not suffering. My other jobs are not suffering. I have free time to do work. I'm learning the gift of men, the connection. It was just everything that God said was going to happen. And I'm anticipating more, because He said juicy. I'm like, "God, I know you said this. Like, there is more to come." And so that was how I got into the placement that God audibly told me I was going to serve in as a copper in Nigeria. So I think that's literally the end of my story. I know I compressed so much, but I hope that this really, really ministers to you. This tells you that whatever God says in your life, if you hold on to it, it will come to pass. So in summary of everything that I have said, wide and large, is that faith works. My pastor will always say, if it does not work, then it's not faith. And we see examples of men in the Bible who, imagine God telling you to build an ark at a time in the world where there was nothing, like they don't know what rain was like the whole world it has never rained before. So imagine Noah trying to describe to his neighbor, "Oh, it's water will fall from the sky," and they will laugh. So sometimes God will tell you something, it will sound funny even to your own human mind, even to people, but I bet you hold on to God's word, because His word is potent, His word works, His word is alive. It's like a two-edged sword. It can cut through anything as long as you stand by it, and God will do everything. And there's one lesson is, don't do too much. Work with God, but don't do it by your power. He will do it. Just hold on to His word and war in the place of prayer. Stand by Him in patience and in hope, and His word over your life, over that situation, will come to pass. Alright, that's all for today. I hope to see you next time as I share more stories of my work with God and my faith journey. Bye bye.